Hello, welcome to the VRC, and this video is all about this, the Trimui Smart Pro. So what is it? Well, it's basically a handheld computer game system that allows you to play loads of games dating back from the 80s all the way up to the noughties. It's not a named console like the Switch or a Nintendo DS or something like that. It is an emulator. So on here, there are loads of games from the Atari 2600 from the 80s. There's the later Atari system, there's the Nintendo Entertainment System, there's the Master System from Sega, then later on the 16-bit consoles, there's the Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo systems, as well as things like the Neo Geo, which costs hundreds of pounds, and the games are hundreds of pounds, and they're basically arcade machines in your house from the 90s. Loads of those games are on here as well. And you've got Sega Saturn, a few games from Sega Saturn, PS1 and Dreamcast, which was the same generation as PS2. Sadly, no PS2 games. And of course, old arcade games. It's got MAME emulation. MAME is a famous emulator that emulates old arcade games and allows you to play those on systems at home. And basically loads and loads more. Basically about 10,000 games on this system. You're not going to be stuck for something to play. Unfortunately, when I turned it on, I thought that it was rubbish. When I turned it on, I thought there was Pokemon games, arcade vertical shooters. They're basically just only Nintendo Entertainment System games. And then for some reason I thought that was it. But then if you keep on going, see, that's all you can do. But if you press the one on the right there, then you can choose all the different systems, of which there are many, including the Game Boy as well. I didn't mention that, Game Boy Advance, and the Nintendo 64. Now, I've reviewed an emulator on this channel before, sent from Datafrog. It was this little thing, and this little thing had a similar situation. It had about 10,000 games, it had emulation and all of that, and it did from the 80s up to the noughties. It had PS1 and Dreamcast and things like that. But whilst this is very, very cool, and I do really like this, it's tiny, it fits in your pocket, you can just grab it out on the plane or the train or the bus or in the back of a car or whatever, and you can play it. The negatives mainly I found were that it was so small that if you had bigger hands it was really hard to play newer games. The screen generally is small, it's kind of big enough, it's a nice screen, but you might find it a bit too small. And also, on some PS1 games, it struggled a bit and it slowed down. This one though, I have not experienced any slowdown at all. Both the processor and the GPU is upgraded from the old 36S. The screen is larger, 4.95 inches. The old resolution on the old R36S was 640 by 480. This is 1280 by 720. So it's 720p, which isn't massive, but on a smaller screen like that, it does look very sharp. But also, because you're playing mainly old games that ran on old TVs with low resolution, it's plenty to cover every single thing. The resolution on the old one wasn't that bad, to be fair. I wouldn't say that was a minus point for the R36S, but it is nice that we got a few extra pixels on this one. But the main advantage of this one, I think, over that one, is that it's much easier to hold. It's still quite small. It is definitely a micro pocket thing. We've got more towards that kind of Switch Lite form factor, whereas the old one was more of a Game Boy form factor, and it definitely makes playing, for example, Super Nintendo games where you use the bumpers a lot easier. Now, before we carry on talking about it and the negatives, because there will be negatives, because this channel gives negatives, proper negatives, let's see how it came in the box. Well, the box was pretty simple box, and when you open it up, you just get the device itself with a screen protector, you get a little instruction page, you get a manual, and you get a charge cable. It comes in two varieties. You can either get a 64GB card. Now, it's just the card. That's the card there. This is 64GB, or you can get 128GB for like an extra tenner. It has onboard storage of about 8GB, but that's just mainly for the kind of OS and stuff like that. All the games are on the actual card itself. And the good news is everything seems to run very fine. Everything accesses quickly, and like I said, no slowdown on those more complicated PS1 and Dreamcast games from later on. I was actually quite amazed playing games like Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit on this. It's weird because I remember playing that game thinking it was absolutely cutting edge and, you know, 3D and all the polygons and stuff like that. And it looks great on this. It doesn't look great in that it hasn't aged that well. To be honest, I still think these are better for those kind of classic games. Like, this is now the perfect device to play all the old Super Nintendo, Neo Geo, Mega Drive, and some PlayStation 1 games. Things like Dead or Alive, the fighting game, looks very good on here. Tekken 3 I played, that looks very good on here. And with the two bumpers, it made it a lot easier to play. Now let's talk a bit about the device itself. It charges down here using USB-C, and then there's another USB-C at the top that says host, but that, as far as I know, is for connecting to other devices to play two-player games. You've got the volume up and down here, and then you've got two bumpers. Well, you've got the bumpers here, and then you've got bumpers behind the triggers, but they're not analog. At first I thought, oh, that's a shame, but then again, there's not really any games that utilize the analog because they came on later generations, and this doesn't really cover those. It was more of from Xbox 360 onwards where you had bumpers, and this does not do Xbox 360 games. Some people might be able to try it because, of course, this is open source. You can go onto GitHub and things like that. You can download new games, new ROMs. So just like that R36S, it's got a lot of capacity to play around with and have some fun if you want to delve into the settings and play about. Speaking of settings, you've got a settings menu, and it's got Wi-Fi. Unlike the R36S, this will connect to your Wi-Fi network. You can change the key map, and also in games, you can go to a different menu. You can always access this menu, and you can save games, load games, take screenshots, alter the controls, and a few other things. So because of the size, I really enjoyed playing this, and price-wise, it's about 80-ish quid, a bit less for the 64, a bit more for the 128. It's not too bad, considering you get loads and loads of stuff on it, and everything runs really, really well. The screen has got a great viewing angle. It looks really good at night as well. My son was playing it in the car on the way back from IKEA one night, and he really likes it. But let's talk negatives. So, firstly, I do wish it wasn't the Nintendo setup, and it goes B-A. I'm used to A-B, but that's just me. People might prefer this. The analog sticks are not the best. I like the little LEDs, by the way, around them. They look cool. But once again, because they're old games, you don't really need the analog sticks to be that good. You are generally still using that. So when I was doing Need for Speed, for example, nowadays you use the trigger to accelerate, but for that I'm still just pressing A or B or something like that, and I'm mainly using the D-pad, to be fair. It has Bluetooth, which is great, but when I tried to attach controllers to it using Bluetooth, it would not work. It could recognize them and say Xbox controller, and also I tried a GameSir controller, which works in many different modes. It can be in Switch mode, PC mode, PlayStation mode, but none of them worked. I could never get a controller to attach to this using Bluetooth. Sound can attach to this, and when you do, it works, and you think brilliant, but as soon as you open a game, the audio switches back to this. So if you want to use headphones on this, you are going to have to use the good old 3.5-inch socket at the bottom. That's probably a negative because a lot of people like wearing wireless headphones. Also, on the PS1 games that require both buttons, it's a bit narrow. I am still struggling to get two pairs of fingers up the top. It's brilliant for holding it like a Super Nintendo joypad with a couple of fingers up there, but when you're going to do that, like on the PS1 onwards, it is quite difficult. So it's still a bit narrow, and it would have been nice if I could have attached a controller to it, but I couldn't, which was a shame. Also, it has got a media player, by the way, so you can actually watch things on this, but I can't see really anyone using that for this, like loading video files onto that to play. Maybe you would, maybe if you knew you're going to have a big train, car, plane ride, load some films on there, and it'd be all right. Yeah, you could do that, I suppose. But it's just a bit clunky, Because it's got Wi-Fi, it would have been nice to have a few apps like YouTube and things like that so you could just watch some videos normally. However, that's just the software holding it back. So I'm sure that if someone got this who'd like to tinker, you could probably put all that stuff on there. That's the great thing about these devices. They're just basically computers that allow people to do whatever they want with it they want. But if you don't want to mess about, you just got this default way of playing of thousands of games. And I'm a big fan of that. So if you like your old retro games and you want to relive those old arcade memories from years gone by and you've got bigger hands, then I definitely recommend this over this. This is still great and it's cheaper. So if you want to see more of this, I've done a review on this, which is weirdly done really well. So check that out if you want to see more of this. But out of the two, the more expensive one is the better one, but you are paying for the extra betterness. So if you want a bigger screen, get this one. If you want your PS1 games to play a bit better, get this one. But if you're all about the older games and you don't care about the 4:3 ratio, because obviously old games were in that ratio screen, then this one was very good. But which you prefer? Let me know in the comments, because I'd love to hear your opinions. Loads of people love messing about with these, and this is basically the same, but it just looks a bit newer and shinier, doesn't it? Battery life, they reckon it's going to last 5 hours, and to be honest, I've been playing on it loads, and so's my son, and I haven't charged it yet. So I would say that is definitely achievable. I imagine if you're only playing later generation games like your Dreamcast and PlayStation 1 games, it probably isn't going to last as long, but I don't think battery life is going to be an issue. However, one negative in terms of charging, it only takes up to 5 volts charging. If you use a quick charger, it doesn't like it at all. You need to stick to slow charging with this. But yeah, that was the Trimui Smart Pro. I like it. This definitely gets a recommendation from the VRC. So if you're interested in it, there are links in the description, and there are also discount codes, so check those out, try and save a bit of money. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. If you didn't, give us a thumbs down. Let us know in the comments what your favourite retro arcade game is, and if there's any games that you thought you loved in the past, but you played again and you found out they were rubbish. By the way, Dragon Ninja, Bad Dudes vs Dragon Ninja, which I played on the R36S, and I found out it was the NES version, and I was really disappointed. This has the arcade version, and it's much better. I really liked it. But anyway, thank you for watching again, and until next time, play safe.